Back again for another stream. So, Martin Odegaard. I think it's time to talk about Martin Odegaard. As you guys can see the title. Martin Odegaard, is he keeping, is he holding back Ethan Nwaneri? Guys, what do you think? If there's any Arsenal fans in there, guys, let me know. For me, I like Odegaard as a footballer. I think in terms of modern day number tens, I think you would say. I think he is one of the better ones in terms of the profile that he is, in terms of his ability with the ball. I think Odegaard for me is more of a number eight, not a number 10. And I think in terms of how he combines, the midfield to the attack, I think he does do a very good job in doing that. Big up Reluctant Gamer, big up every time. But I think with Odegaard, I think Odegaard for me is too around the point. He's someone that is a neat footballer. He keeps things ticking over. But I think he flatters to deceive for me too many times. And again, not taken away from his ability, because I do think he's a very, very good footballer. But I think the fact that he's the captain, and again, I never saw him becoming captain of Arsenal when he first came there. I didn't really see that. But I think in terms of what he gives to Arsenal, I do think he can be doing a lot more, and I think that in terms of him being the captain, I think that's what's keeping him in the lineup. I mean, he does come off quite a bit, but I think the captaincy is, I think it is keeping him in the lineup longer than it should be, if I'm honest, because I do believe that, the likes of Ethan Nwaneri, who I think is a very, very good player, I think he does deserve, to be having his time, because I do think that, some of that talent, Ethan Nwaneri, some of that talent does need to be playing a lot more. I think what he's just turned 18, and I think at this stage of his career now, I do think he does need to be getting regular football. I mean, Arsenal, I can't see Arsenal loaning out Nwaneri, to be honest with you, next season. But I think it's going to come to a point where someone of that ability can't be kept down, And again, he plays obviously as a number 10 and can play from the right. Obviously, the problem he has on the right is that obviously Arsenal's most influential player, you would say, in Bukayo Saka, plays there. So for me, there's two places, which is the right or which is the number 10 that he has to play. I know there was talk about Arteta saying that he can play as a 9, which I don't see. I think is a pure number 10 or someone that plays from the right hand side. And I think in terms of ability, he has a lot more ability than Saka. But I think Saka's is the idol for Arsenal. So, and obviously Arteta loves Saka. So, there's no chance that Nwaneri is gonna out Saka from that position. And then we look at the number 10 position, which again, Odegaard, is flattering to deceive. And again, it's not taken away from Odegaard's ability, but for me, Ethan Nwaneri does deserve to be getting more game time than he has been getting, And I think sooner or later, Mikel Arteta is going to have a decision to make, because if I'm Ethan Nwaneri this season, I'm biding my time. But I think next season, if he's not playing regular, then for me, he has to be knocking on the door of the manager saying, that he needs to either go on loan or he needs to move on for the betterment of his career, because at the moment he's only 18, but his career can go just like that, because unless Arteta is looking at Nwaneri as a key player, then I think for sure, man, he does need to look at his future, because I look at Nwaneri's talent and I believe that he can go and play for, pretty much on talent alone, any team in the league, I would say, and that's including Liverpool. I think he's good enough to, command the starting spot. Obviously he's still inexperienced, but I'm looking at the talent first and foremost, and his talent to me is is a talent that definitely does need to be starting. Big up to NK. So NK says, "What up, bro? Who do you support?" So I support Man United, but again, my channel's about talking about various other teams as well. But big up yourself. Big up Johnny Allweather as well. So he says definitely is Bez. Not quite sure what that means, but big up yourself. But yeah, so what I would say again is that I think Arteta, as I said, has a massive decision to make next season. Because I think he does like the inverted. And I do prefer. Yeah, big up NK, man. So I do prefer seeing the inverted. So I prefer seeing left footers from the right hand side, right footers from the left hand side, and coming in field. I do prefer seeing that. And if that is the case for Arteta as well, which is quite clear that he does like that style of football as well. Obviously Nwaneri can't play from the left because obviously he's left footed. So, yeah, Nwaneri is too good for me to be on the bench, and especially with Odegaard's current form as well. It's gonna be interesting to see what actually happens from there on. Obviously the next Champions League game for Arsenal, again semi-final against PSG, and again you wouldn't expect to see Nwaneri starting. I think it's quite obvious the team that Arteta is going to play. But I do believe you might see him get a start against Bournemouth in the league game, which is sandwiched in between the Champions League semi-final. And as I said, I think Nwaneri can be a bit, I'll say a bit satisfied with his minutes at the moment. But next season is gonna really tell to see, how much Arteta really thinks of him, really. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. But as I said, I'm going to go through because I've taken a couple of notes down in terms of how both players have been performing in terms of numbers this season. Because again, I'm more interested in the performances. And as I said, Martin Odegaard is a very good footballer. He's very neat on the eye. The way he plays, gets in between the lines very good, and obviously links up with Saka very well on the right hand side. But I think someone with his experience now, I think what's he now, mid-20s. Obviously, he's the captain for the club as well. He does need to be doing a lot more than what he is actually doing now for me. And I want to see if the stats actually back it up. And from what I've seen, they do back up that he does need to be doing a lot more, And this is going to be one thing that probably goes against him. Because as I said, I think Nwaneri, in the cameo appearances that he has made, has shown enough that he does deserve a longer run in the team. And again, when Odegaard was out injured, Arteta didn't really play Nwaneri anyway, and again, which was a bit surprising. Nwaneri didn't start the recent game yesterday as well against Crystal Palace, which again was a surprise. But who knows what his plans are for Nwaneri. But for me, Nwaneri does definitely need to be playing and getting more game time for sure. But yeah, we're gonna go through obviously couple of the stats. So Martin Odegaard this season has had 26 games in the league. 20. I think it's 26 starts. I think that might be, if I'm right in saying, with a return of 2 goals and 6 assists, which again I was shocked. And that is poor. So I think he might have had 26 starts. Yeah, I think it's 26 starts, 2 goals, and 6 assists. In the Champions League, he's had 9 games, 3 goals, 1 assist. And in the Carabao Cup, 3 games, 2 assists for a total of 14 GA in a total of 38 games played. And again, if you're an Arsenal fan, make sure you get your comments in the chat and let me know who you prefer between Odegaard and Nwaneri starting in the future in that position as you would say is the most advanced midfielder in that Arsenal lineup. So again, 14 GA in 38 games, isn't good enough. I think in terms of the amount of minutes that Odegaard has played, and the influence that he supposedly has at Arsenal, you would expect him to have at least, I would say at least 20. If he was hitting 20 GA, again, I'm not someone that is really too fussed about GA. I look at performances. but GA does kind of help the cause, I would say. Because for me, if you are playing well and you're getting the GA with it as well, then it's a bonus. But first and foremost, performances over GA any time of the week for me. But to be fair, he's got 14 GA, as I said, in 38 games, which for me isn't good enough. You know, as I said, I expect him to at least have 20, if we're being serious, you know, for, again, his importance to the team. And on the other hand, we've got Ethan Nwaneri. He's played 24 games. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists in the league, 6 games, 2 goals in the Champions League. And then he's got 3 goals in 4 in the Carabao Cup for a total of 34 played and 11 GA. And again, let's not get carried away. A lot of these appearances that Nwaneri has had have been from the bench. You know, so he hasn't been starting half as many games, and it'll be interesting to see how many games he's actually started. So he's only got 3 GA less than Odegaard, who has, again, started a lot more games than what Nwaneri has. You know, so if we're just looking at that and the performances, you would say that Odegaard is very fortunate to be in the team ahead of Nwaneri. And again, Nwaneri can find himself, you know, I'd say a little bit frustrated because, again, people are going to look at his age, you know. But I think in terms of Odegaard's performances and Nwaneri's quality, you know, Nwaneri definitely does deserve more game time. And obviously, being a Man United fan, I mean, I would love to have someone like Nwaneri at Man United, you know, especially playing in that right 10 in this system. But again, that's never going to happen. But yeah, as I said, man, I think things are going to be interesting for Arsenal next season because, again, them drawing yesterday, you know, which hands the title to Liverpool now. I mean, Liverpool just need a point on Sunday against Tottenham, which I definitely think they're going to get. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham actually change a couple of players, you know, obviously with the Europa League around the corner as well. So, yeah, so Liverpool secured that title for me, definitely, especially being at home. And all eyes are for Arsenal on this Champions League semi-final against PSG, which I think I had a look at their fixtures. And those fixtures that they've got coming up, you know, they've got the PSG game, I believe is next Tuesday. And then they've got Bournemouth in the league. And then they've got the PSG return leg. And then after that, I think I want to say it's, is it Newcastle, Liverpool coming up as well? Or they might be a game. I think there might be a game before the Newcastle-Liverpool games. I can't remember. But again, if you're an Arsenal fan, let me know. Because that running that they've got is tricky. And again, I did say with Arsenal, you know, Arsenal are in second place right now. And they are, I believe, I think they're 7 points. Oh, no, sorry. I think they're 6 points ahead of Man City in third at the moment. And again, Man City got the FA Cup, you know, which you'd expect them to win. And I think they've got a more favourable running towards the end of the season in terms of fixtures as well in the league. And I'm telling you now, I've said it from the start of the season. Don't be surprised if Man City finish above Arsenal in this league table, because 6 points is nothing. And this is Arsenal who still have to play Newcastle at home and go to Liverpool. So if they was to lose both of those games, let's say, and Man City win those 2 games, level on points. So, you know, so the thing is, it can change a lot. And again, Newcastle are, I think, 7 points behind. I think Nottingham Forest might be 7 or 6 behind as well. And as I said, don't be surprised if Arsenal do get taken over in this league table. And as I said, I think Arsenal, again, are in the driving seats because 6 points is 6 points. But the fact that they've got Newcastle and Liverpool coming up and Bournemouth, you know, sandwiched in between Champions League. You know, again, they've got a couple of injuries. You know, Gabriel obviously is out for the season. Same with Havertz, same with Gabriel Jesus. You know, I think Jorginho, Calafiori might be missing as well. You know, I think they're going to have to rotate their team against PSG. But it could be to the detriment of their league form, because as I said, if they don't beat Bournemouth away from home and they get beat in the first leg against PSG, confidence is bound to be low for Arsenal. And I believe, as I said, I don't believe Arsenal win Champions League. I've said that from the start. I think PSG will be the game, where they're going to meet their match, I would say. Against Real Madrid, I think they deservedly beat Real Madrid. That was a poor Real Madrid showing from both legs. But I think in terms of what PSG offer, the fluidity in their attack as well, the midfield that is going to dominate, I think them playing PSG, it's obviously the first time they beat them, but it was a different PSG side. But I think them playing PSG again, I think it's going to be a much different game. And again, I would expect PSG to reach the final, and have a chance of winning it, which has been a long time coming. But Arsenal, yeah, they're going to have a very interesting end to the season. And as I said, guys, you've heard it here first. Don't be surprised if Arsenal get beat to second place by Man City. And for me, if that was to happen, where they get beat to second place and no Champions League, I know he's going to stay, but how can Arteta possibly stay in charge? Because that would be Arsenal going backwards. And again, I think, the fact that football now, seems to be giving too much leniency to certain managers, again, is crazy. They need to look at Real Madrid as the measuring stick, because Real Madrid are gonna part ways with Carlo Ancelotti. Whether that's right or wrong, but Real Madrid don't accept failure. And again, if Arteta was to not win the Champions League, which I don't believe he will, and get beaten to second place by either Man City, Newcastle, or imagine if it was a Nottingham Forest, then why would you keep him in charge? Because that's them going backwards. Even though I think they've regressed slightly anyway. The football's not as good. The league position would tell people that that they are being consistent. But I would say that's more because the league as a whole has been poor. So yeah, I think he would have to be seriously looked at as being moved on. But again, I think this Arsenal fan base are just content with Arteta, and they're gonna say get him a striker next season. But even if they do get a striker next season, can you really put your money on Arsenal doing anything again next season? I can't. Definitely not. I think this season is a chance for them to, prove a lot of doubters wrong in the Champions League. As I said, the league title's wrapped up, but in the league, in the Champions League, it's a chance for them to show everyone that that they can win the big prizes. But against PSG, I think it's going to be a step too far. And even if they do beat PSG, I think in the final against Barca or Inter Milan, I think those two teams there will have too much for Arsenal, in my opinion. And again, it's going to be an interesting end to the season, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen there. But yeah, guys, yeah, big up yourself. As I said, if you do like the content, make sure you smash that like button. Obviously, helps the channel to grow. And make sure you subscribe to my channel as well at GavGoesIn and check out my other content. I'm just going to read some of the questions. So, Reluctant Gamer says, I hope Chelsea lose Saturday. Who are Chelsea playing on Saturday? Because, again, I've spoken about this already. I think this is a crucial end to the season for Maresca, because I think the way that Chelsea fans and the board need to look at it, he shouldn't be judged on winning the Conference League, for me. He should be judged purely on them getting in Champions League. Because if they don't make the Champions League from the money that they've spent, then I'm sorry, he has to go. Because they should be winning this Europa League, this Conference League, with their second team. Because I don't see any team there, giving Chelsea problems. I think in the final, if they meet a Fiorentina or a Real Betis, then, Real Betis definitely have some players in their team that can cause problems. Isco's a top player and has been a top player for years. Obviously, Anthony's having a renaissance, you would say, at Real Betis. And I think they've got Cedric Bakambu, I think, as their striker as well, formerly of Villarreal, who can score goals. So I think they have got players there that can cause problems. But for me, they should be winning this team with this. They should be winning this Conference League with their second team, no problem. And if they was to not win that, it's weird because they should win it. If they wanted to win it and he gets Champions League football, I think you could possibly say, he's comfortable in keeping his job. If neither was to happen, then he definitely goes. But I think Champions League, for me, they need to win that more than winning the Conference League. I know a lot of Chelsea fans will be saying, they'll be the first team to win Conference League, Europa League, Champions League, and Premier League, which I hear that. But I think the Champions League is so important for Chelsea in terms of, being able to attract a top striker, I would say. There's been links to Victor Osimhen, obviously Liam Delap as well, who we're going to get onto in a bit. But yeah, I think that they need to definitely get in Champions League. And this Champions League race, if there's one team that I would say, other than Arsenal, because obviously Arsenal are in the driving seat and you do expect them to get into the Champions League places. But if there's one team that I could say that will make it out of the Nottingham Forest, Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Aston Villa, I would have to say Man City for me would definitely be the team that does get in there. Probably because of Pep, his experience, the players' experience of getting into Champions League season after season. So I think there's no worries there. And I think they beat Aston Villa the other night as well, and I think they're going to go on a bit of form now, I believe, Man City, where they're just going to tick off games, and pick up the points. And as I said, don't be surprised if they're in the if they finish above Arsenal, because Arsenal's next 3 league games, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle, and I think there might be another game in there, I can't remember. They're not easy games, which is sandwiched in between Champions League. So yeah, they're going to have it all to do. And again, they're going to be feeling the fatigue as well from the squad, So yeah, it's going to be interesting. So Gamer says, Eddie Howe back at training ground today. Yeah, I've seen the news. Obviously, big up Eddie Howe, man. Obviously, let's hope he's fully recovered. And what a good manager he is, man. I think he's a very good manager. I think in terms of the English managers, for me, over the last 10 years, I think he's been probably the best, I would say, in terms of English managers. He's got this Newcastle team. He's got them built solid. That midfield of Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton, as I said before, is arguably one of the best midfield 3 in the league. As I said already, and Gamer, this, if they target Brian Mbeumo or Matthias Cunha, get both of them, that's title contenders for me there. If they go and get a centre-back as well. I think you've got a very serious team if they can. For me, there's 3 positions that they need to sort out for me, and that is goalkeeper. Even though Nick Pope, has been a solid goalkeeper for them, I think they might need to get a more modern day goalkeeper in terms of a goalkeeper being better with his feet. If they go and get a commanding centre-back, I know there's been links to Mark Guehi, whether they go for someone that's a bit more unproven, I don't know, but has the potential to grow. Obviously, they've got Sven Botman has been out injured as well. He could be a starter on his day as well. And if they go and get a right winger, Jacob Murphy has been very good this season and has surprised a lot. But if they go and get, as I said, a Brian Mbeumo, even I like Nicholas Kuhn. Even if they go and get a Nicholas Kuhn or a Brian Mbeumo, I think that changes their attack. I think Mbeumo would be the ideal solution for them. He's got the pace, he's got the power. He's a threat from out wide in terms of his goal scoring as well. And I think he'd be the ideal solution for Newcastle on that right-hand side, being left-footed as well. Imagine him linking up with Isak and a Gordon or a Barnes as well in that attack with that midfield. But if they're to go and get a Cunha, because I heard there's been interest in Cunha as well, which you know, if they firm up their interest in Cunha and Cunha, you know, decides to have his head turned, if they was to have an Embuemo and a Cunha with an Isak as part of their front three, that's title contenders there for me, definitely. I have no doubts about that. And I think if they get into the Champions League, you know, you could see them going for players like that. So, yeah, again, Newcastle, man, they're going to be a team next season that everyone needs to be focused on for sure. So Chelsea have got Everton. Is that at home? I think that might be at home. If that's at home, I think Chelsea should win that. You know, with the momentum from the win against Fulham, coming back to win 2-1, West London derby. So yeah. So you guys got Ipswich Saturday. Okay, so I think that's safe to say that's 3 points there for Newcastle. I think they're at home as well, Newcastle, because obviously Ipswich got beat, was it 4-0 by Arsenal in the weekend. So yeah, I think their confidence will be low. And again, they're definitely gonna go down for me, which brings us on nicely to Liam Delap. Guys, I'm gonna be back at so make sure you set your notifications. Make sure you come back onto my stream. So I'm gonna be live at 3 o'clock talking about Liam Delap and why I think he's the perfect striker and the ideal striker for Man United going forwards. You know, for me, he ticks all the boxes. And I think it's important to know as well why Delap would be a great signing for United, because of what he offers. And there's a lot of variables in his game that I think is ideal to why he should be a main target for United. You know, I didn't really see it at first in terms of the target side of it. You know, United going for a Liam Delap. But for me, I think from the current strikers that's out there in the market that are available, for me, I think he's the ideal one. You know, and again, we're gonna get into that as well, because there is quite a few things to go off that I wanna discuss. So as I said, make sure, guys, you catch me back at 3 o'clock live on my channel. You know, and as I said, if you do enjoy the stream, make sure you get your comments in. You know, and again, if you disagree with my opinions, then by all means, as long as you're respectful, put that in the chat, and we can discuss. But yeah, so as I said, yeah. So Martin Odegaard, for me, he can't be keeping Ethan Nwaneri down for too long. You know, I think end of the season, you know, is coming up, and again, they've got PSG. You know, so Odegaard is going to start, and obviously Odegaard's got to prove that he deserves to be a starter still in this team. But I think if Odegaard doesn't pick up his form, you know, and, you know, he doesn't get Arsenal over the line, whether it be, you know, into Champions League places or, you know, overcoming a PSG team, and his performances haven't been good enough, I think next season, as I said, Arteta's got a massive decision to make, whether he perseveres with Odegaard at the expense of Nwaneri, because again, Nwaneri for me, you know, I think he does deserve to be playing more regular, and there's only two places for me that he plays. That's the 10 and the right, but the right, you can more or less say that's Bukayo Saka's position for however long he wants it, really, which again is another issue, because I think Saka does need to be challenged, but I think as long as Saka's there, he's going to be playing. So, as I said, Nwaneri does need to be looking at how he can get into this team. And the number 10 position, from how Odegaard's performing, for me is the ideal spot for me, you know. But yeah, guys, big up yourselves for coming on, as I said, each and every time. Make sure you put your comments in the chat put your comments in after the stream has ended. You know, you might think I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong on Martin Odegaard or Ethan Nwaneri, if you think Odegaard deserves to keep his place and Nwaneri has to bide his time, then by all means put that in the chat or put that in the stream after. And again, catch me back, guys, at 3 o'clock. The Liam Delap. We're going to discuss Liam Delap and I say why he ticks all the boxes for me. As I said, yeah, if you got any comments to make sure you put that in the chat. Make sure you put that in the stream once it's ended. And again, make sure you smash that like button, and make sure you subscribe to my channel. Obviously, it helps the channel to grow. And guys, yeah, I'll catch you guys back at 3 o'clock. Take it easy.